Yep. Yeah, we're on. We're live. Welcome, Modern Relics Podcast. I'm Angeles Lucky. We're back again. Took a week off.
Yes, we
It
are.
was necessary.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. That was once again my fault. I just had things to do, and it was important.
Fault. It's life. I've been
Yeah.
slowly burning out, so a week off wasn't too bad. And not burning out on the show, just burning out on everyone around me, which I think we'll talk about later on tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But-
think it's going to be a pretty big focus of the show tonight.
Yeah.
Is just because I feel it too. I know where you're at. I know that we are both kind of circling the same concepts that we'll go into further details later, but it's for sure. And I don't think we're alone either in this, but yeah, we'll definitely tackle that in a little bit. But what's your week been like?
It's been an exploration of how I need to spend more money and didn't realize I needed to spend more money, which is always fun. I picked up a nail in my tire for the third time on the same tire. And I'm like, if I surgically repair
I was
this
wondering
tire
where you're going with that.
with one more patch, I'm likely to just blow it out at some point. So I bought a new set of tires, which is wildly expensive. And I'll be having those put on Valentine's
sure
Day
is.
morning, which is super great for me.
That's called a labor of love.
Yeah, it'll be my Valentine's Day gift to me. Like, it's so unnecessary. And I think I've narrowed down why this continues to happen. The city that I live in, we have a trash day for my community, which lands on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I think of every other week, a street sweeper will come and they'll put the little brushes, the spinny brushes, as close to the pavement as they can. And they'll street sweep everything unless a car is parked there. And then they go wide around the car and then go right back into street sweeping, which is kind of a fantastic thing because it's all wrapped up in the perks of living in the city that I live in. You don't pay extra for that. It's part of what you pay for, you know, your property taxes and such. My theory is, because I run really, really, really wide tires on the rear of my car specifically, that they hang over where like the normal indentations of tire marks would be of a vehicle in a lane. They hang over just enough that I think when that sweeper comes out, due to random cars parked in front of houses all day, I think it's pulling debris closer toward the tracks of the stuff. And if a nail gets missed or something like that, or a piece of debris, I think my tires are picking up debris because it's always on the outside edge of the right rear tire. And it always lands where the contact patch meets the sidewall, which is really annoying to try and patch because it's an elbow shape inside the tire you have to fix, not a flat surface that you can just plug and then scrub down and reseal. So my third one is, it's like, okay, this is annoying. So I'm not by a whole hell of a lot, but I am buying a smaller width rear tire on the ones that I purchased. And hopefully, because it's not like I'm driving my car in construction zones a lot where I'm like, here's the thought. There's a bunch of houses under construction. Let's go do burnouts in empty street. Like, I'm just typically going to the grocery or, you know, a haircut or whatever I go do when I'm not sitting here. And I'm rewarded with a nail in the tire a lot. So that's great. It's like, cool. That's over $1,000 I get to pay. It's closer to $2,000 that I get to pay. So that happened. Other than that, not a whole lot. I'm anticipating an arrival of some family tomorrow, and that's going to be a good time. So just kind of general cleaning and making sure, you know, I've hidden all the dead bodies in occult books and all the stuff that I wouldn't want family members to see, things of that nature. So
she's used to it.
Yeah.
So
how about you?
What he's referring to, folks, I'm doing all right. We had a decent week. I've been actually, I have been plugging along through the security training
Yeah.
that I was supposed to. I've already finished it. Apparently, I finished it faster than anybody in the church history, which is pretty
Wow.
weird because I didn't think I was actually plugging that hard.
Yeah.
But from what I gather, as a volunteer situation, that the guys don't really jump through the hoops real fast. They're like, they'll do a service a week and it takes a couple of months for them to do it. Apparently I'm the first guy to do it in like 2 weeks. So, but
have you come with any policy changes yet?
No, I don't think I'm at that point, but I'm building trust at the moment.
Yeah.
I need to build a side coalition that'll back me up when when voting time comes. We did have, this last Sunday, a 91-year-old man, as I was outside as a rover, did fall, and we had to rush to help him and get him up, and hopefully he's doing okay. I think he hurt his hip, which is not a good thing at that age. He had a little bit of bloody hand and elbow, and we got a nurse to him pretty quickly. And but outside of that, it's a fairly, just keeping an eye on. Is that what
we're telling the authorities after the interrogation of the old man? Is that he simply fell?
Yeah, he got lippy. Those old men just don't know their place. They're demanding respect all the time, and
we can't have that.
He came out. He said the "Do you know who I am" thing, and I just had it. I had it. Yeah. No, he's a sweet old man.
Not today, Matthias.
Yeah.
Jacob. So, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an old guy name.
Yeah. But outside of that, no, work was actually pretty busy this week.
Nice.
Starting to get
That's good to hear.
kind of a flood back in of people, which is good. But yeah, we've got a Friday the 13th coming up this month and next month, so we're kind of prepping for that too.
I was going to say there's like 2 of them this year, or maybe 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's 3, but there's 2 in a row.
Yeah.
February and March, which is an anomaly, but
that's a wild marketing attack pattern. If you go from Friday the 13th, which I can conjure up very easily what that means to a tattoo shop based on my relative exposure to the industry, and then having Valentine's Day the very next day.
Oh, we do it all weekend. So Valentine's Day is going my wife and I are going to be at the shop all day Valentine's Day.
Wow.
So
yeah,
we'll do something afterwards. Probably that Sunday. But yeah. Besides that, we're just getting prepped for your visit as well.
Yeah.
So the family that he was speaking of is my daughter and her boyfriend. And they are actually going to be flying out tomorrow morning down to the Vegas airport. And my daughter got her boyfriend, Wiley, tickets to see, oh man, I have no idea. Some country western star that I don't know. But
I shouldn't hate on country western because it's essentially farm emo. And that's kind of the universe that I lived in, but yeah, some guy.
But it's his favorite guy, and so she got him tickets and then airline tickets, and so they got some adventures.
This is a badass gift, by the way. That's a pretty incredible surprise. We're gonna go to a totally different state, and then go see your favorite country western guy and hang out and have fun and do lots of neat stuff. That's a really rad gift.
Yeah, and he's 24 and has never been to Vegas.
Wow.
And so he's actually pretty excited to go.
That's probably why he's a nice guy.
He's excited to meet you. Yeah, right? Yeah, no exposure. But no, he's really looking forward to it because he does enjoy
welcome back. Go on. Sorry.
A little card play. You know, he loves playing cards. So he's not an excessive gambler, but he's excited to go, throw down a little bit of cash at a legit casino rather than kind of something from, the Coeur d'Alene tribe or whatever. Sure. But he's such a good guy. I'm very, very happy to have him in my daughter's life. And this was a really heartfelt gift from her. And he's gonna have fun, but they're gonna go to the Bass Pro Shop because they both love
Yeah.
fishing, and it's like the Disneyland of Bass Pro Shops on the West Coast. And um so they both got gift cards there, but they're going to do a little bit of kind of touristy stuff, a couple of restaurants, a couple of things, but they're going to go hang out with you a little bit, and then they're going down to Havasu to go visit her great grandmother, and who's 88, and yeah, so
Well, I have
they're
good news
leaving
and
tomorrow
bad
morning.
news about this.
Yeah, okay,
The good news is I'm stoked to have them down. I can't wait to see them come down and have fun and do the best they can. Bad news is one of my 2 guest bedrooms is presently under construction in a pretty significant way, which is a recent development. However, I have accommodated for 2 guests in independent living spaces. I've gone to my favorite place, which is Costco, and I've purchased a really awesome dog bed. So the boy can sleep at the foot of the bed in my room next to me in the corner while the other room is under construction, unfortunately, which will put me between the door and the boy. And then she can have whatever room she wants because she's a princess, and I'll move the construction tools to the other room. I mean, the one room will be off limits completely, unfortunately. So it's a nice one, though. Like, I spent good money on this. I'm sure he'll enjoy it.
Like the memory foam kind. That'll be sweet.
It's got like a
you'll be
little
excited.
place where you can crawl inside, and I've set up an array of like digital candles so we don't burn anything down. It's gonna be a good time.
Oh,
No,
very kind of you.
in all seriousness, I think it's gonna be really great. Like I've been reflecting on this visit over the last couple of days, like about my age in comparison to like being there when you guys brought her home in a little towel from the hospital. You know what I mean? It's like, my God, like,
Right.
and she's
Yeah.
like 20 now, almost 21.
20. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, dude,
And
I feel like I don't have my shit together, and already the children in my head are full grown. You know, it's like pretty wild to think, but I hope they have a great
when
time.
we went
I'm sure
down
it'll
there
be
for
fun.
that. Yeah, yeah. And when we went down there that summer, you only get, it was all 4 of us. And
Yeah.
so when all 4 of us are there, my wife, my son, my daughter, and I, which was, I think she was 18 when we were down there. And when we were down there, you don't get the full force of Kate
Yeah.
but when she's comfortable and by herself, man, it'll blow your mind, A, at how mature she is, but B, also how funny she is.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a good time. Plus, you've got to kick his ass in Mario Golf. He's looking forward to it.
Nice. Yeah. The unfortunate part is
he's a car guy too, so
like,
you're gonna enjoy talking cars with him,
which is great. Like the unfortunate part is I have to work through the weekdays, generally speaking, so I'm kind of chained into my office when I have big blocks of meetings and things to look at and stuff. But I mean, good for them in that, like, they'll be completely self-sufficient. There's a world of things to go do, and they shouldn't rely on home base for anything other than, oh, we're tired, we should go home and rest or whatever. But for what it's worth, I can barbecue, I can play Mario Golf, I can talk about cars and guns and all the other fun stuff. So if they're into that, I'm your man. Like,
they are into that,
cool.
And they will have a good time.
Yeah,
and they're self-sufficient, like you said. And they will not need to be entertained.
Yeah.
If they are at your house, it is because they want to be there and they want to hang out with you. They will find things to do. They are not shy, and I mean, he's quiet. He's a quiet guy, but he's not shy. So outside of that, I've been playing with Legos, and I showed you one of the Lego
I see
things.
the DeLorean behind you now.
Yeah, so this one,
I forgot to ask when you first showed that to me, do the wheels actually roll when they're in that configuration?
yeah. Yes,
So
they
not
do.
only do
So
they
you
go
can
up
actually-
into the wheel well for flight mode, but they also roll across the desk with, oh, that's great. Look at it go.
Yeah. So, and then you can actually flip the
Oh,
you
yeah.
can flip the wheels in like that.
Yeah.
So, which
Dude,
is super
Legos have
great.
come so damn far from when I had Legos.
Oh, I know. And man, this thing was sure. I mean, it was a feat of engineering,
Mhm.
you know, to put together. It took me multiple days to do it, and I've never done a project like that before.
Yeah.
This inspired Kate and Wiley for
Mhm.
Christmas to buy me this set. And this set is over 7,500 pieces.
Wow.
It came in a box that was this big. I mean, it's enormous.
If you're just listening,
is-
it takes up the entirety of the Lucky's webcam at the moment. And what
Right.
we're about to look at here is a giant manual.
Yeah, that's the instruction booklet. That's probably 3 inches to 3.5 inches thick,
That's insane.
and it's 11 by 17, and it's on a spiral bound, and it weighs about 15 pounds.
Yeah, and this is the model of design is of course the Millennium Falcon. Oh, he's
right.
gonna grab it.
I'm about a third of the way through,
Holy shit!
and it is enormous. And I literally have to take breaks because I'm just not
It's a lot.
geared. Well, I'm just not geared in a autistic way to sit there for that long. Like, you know, like this
Yeah.
is an autism project
Yeah,
that I have probably a certain amount, but not that amount. That's crazy talk. And so, but I am chipping away at it. This has been a couple weeks. I had to backtrack on one point where I had to basically lose about 6 hours worth of work. But we are back on track, and now I'm doing the undercarriage of it, which is kind of boring and hard. So I'm
Mhm.
trickling through it. I'll probably work on it for another couple hours tonight, but yeah, hopefully I'll get the whole undercarriage done. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow night. But while Kate's down there, Oliver is going to be traveling to Winthrop, Idaho, or Washington
Wow.
for an outdoor hockey tournament.
Mhm.
And so me and the wife will be home by ourselves for a little bit, so I'll have some time to tinker away on that.
You have a
So-
ton of Lego time. This is great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But yeah,
Also, me
outside of
just
that,
being
that's kind of
a sarcastic bastard and all. I love how, because that was a comment I made to you about like the levels of difficulty with Lego and then autism being at the top. Like, I love how
Yeah.
autism is like the de facto answer to everything in pop culture now. Where
right,
like,
right.
I'm weaponizing it now. I always try to find creative ways to troll my boss, whoever my boss may be, and I've had many bosses through the years where I work over at Redacted. My favorite now is like being on the phone when I join a video call and kind of give him one of these as I'm like finishing a phone call, and he'll hop in and I'll say something to the effect of, I don't think having a foot fetish qualifies as autism for FMLA, but you miss all the shots you don't take, man. You should try. Anyway, look, no, give it a whirl. I'm going to talk to, I got to go. I got a meeting. That's fine. Okay. And then I'll hang up the phone. There's nobody on the other end, but he's just kind of sitting there like, you know, I've heard, the reason I say that is I've heard that so much in the last probably year. That it's just
I
like,
honestly don't even believe. Just
really?
because you take a heavy interest in it doesn't mean you have autism.
Exactly.
And I think that
yeah, like I thought it was bad when we had WebMD self-diagnoses running around when that was a thing. We're in a whole different universe now, because now it's like acceptable
really
to
are.
wear your trauma on your sleeve and invent a whole bunch of things. I'm,
just because you collected spoons and plates,
neurodivergent, autistic loner,
Right.
that like I don't know, man.
Well, they're trying to say that like there was autism back when our parents were young, and it manifested in the way that they collected like collective, commemorative plate sets, or they collected all the little teaspoons or whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's just collecting. That's
Right.
not autism. It's not a hyper focus of, you can have an avid interest in something and collect something and not have a
Right.
neurological disability.
Which I agree exists.
silly
I'm
thing.
not saying it doesn't. It's just
Oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
everyone's de facto answer to being of peak interest
I'm
in
quirky.
something. Yeah.
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 Now, I have discovered something that I didn't realize existed up until recently, and I guess I always knew it did exist,
Yeah.
but I never really put any thought to it because I didn't live in that realm as much. Where I live in different realms of nerdery, of different types of
Not you.
geekdom, right? So comic book nerds are definitely their own thing. D&D nerds are their own thing. You
Sure.
can kind of tell them by the aesthetics of them and their speech patterns. And it's almost like different tribe subcultures within nerdery, right? Then you got your anime weirdos, and you got, all the different types of nerdery that kind of fold into a larger kind of encompassing structure
Should
of
we
society.
do a podcast first, Pyramid of Nerdery?
Oh, we should.
We should
At some
think that
point.
through.
But-
Build a
But
graphic.
this is one I did not realize was a thing. And there is a whole subset of Lego nerds.
Yeah.
And Lego nerdery is its own subset of the nerd kingdom. And what I've started to, because we have this new Lego store in town, a brick store of some kind, and it's right by Fred Meyer. And the kids who work in there, the guys who were all working there, you look at them and you're like, oh yeah, of course, you're a Lego nerd. And there's no other way to describe it. They are buttoned up, well groomed, very soft, but like cardigan sweaters.
Yeah.
Kind of
Possibly
like
an engineer.
glasses,
Yeah.
but well kept hair. They're not greasy. They're not like basement dweller type of.
I feel very called out now. They're the opposite of me, is what you're saying. You cut out for a second.
Yeah. Sorry, you cut up pretty bad there for me. Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, I said I feel very called out. They're the opposite of me.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's a subset that I am now fascinated with because they don't know what to do with me when I walk in there and I'm digging through Legos trying to build a minifig or find parts or something. Like it's hilarious. But yeah, normally it's kids and moms. Dude. But it was funny the other day I was in there and like this group of like 4 like neon vested, dirty boots and jeans and like just grimy construction workers came in there and just started digging through and like filling buckets and like they had a mission, and it was very out of place, but it was hilarious. So dude, that's what I'm doing. I've been Legoing because I'm a weirdo, but I'm enjoying it.
This is what I want life to be like when you go into that Lego store. I want it to be like going into an auto parts store where you roll up to the counter and be like, I'm looking for a power inverter for a 1978.
My internet must be really bad.
Yeah,
you keep locking up.
I'm looking for a power inverter for a 1978 Millennium Falcon. And then they have to like go into the computer and see if they have the right part for your model and stuff, like they would at like a AutoZone or someplace. That'd be the best, dude. How does one shop for spare parts at the Lego brick store? You know what I mean? It's great. My internet is stable. We're not dropping packets, so I think it's on your side, unfortunately. But we're getting through it. We'll figure it out.
But yeah, I think they actually have that. You can actually order them by the part like number. Like every Lego piece has a part number, and there's multiple sites that you can do that from.
Because you can do
So,
that. You can do that at like a card
crazy,
kingdom
but-
for like Magic the Gathering cards. You know what I mean? You can like go in and be like, I'm looking for this from this
Yeah.
edition, but not a reprint. I want that one. And then they'll type in the computer and the little magic gnomes upstairs go find it in the annals of magic cardery and then shoot it down the little vault hole. Cool. No, I think that's neat though. I don't think
Well-
I have the stamina to put together a Lego set like that. And I enjoy Legos, but sometimes if it comes out wrong and I've misplaced a piece, I would rather hit it with a hammer than take all the pieces off and put them back
It's been a
together.
couple-
Yeah.
It's been close a couple of times. If it wasn't an $800 gift, I probably would have.
You're like,
If I had purchased that thing,
I failed. I'm done.
yeah,
Looks good enough.
yeah, I'm comfortable enough at my age with personal failure that
Yeah.
if I had paid for this, it would have been a
Mhm.
bucket of pieces
Yeah.
much faster. But yeah, but
That'd be great.
so
You
anyway,
pour all those pieces into like a Home Depot bucket and then yard sale it out and just have a picture of a Millennium Falcon on it. No instructions. $100, choose your destiny, and then just send it, you know?
yeah, I would imagine they would be probably about a Home Depot bucket's worth of like parts. Like if you were to strip it down individually, piece by piece, it would probably fill a Home Depot bucket. That's how many pieces are in this thing.
It's impressive. Most impressive.
Yeah. Most impressive. Well, let's talk about what we were going to talk about, which
Yeah.
is our frustrations.
Yes.
And I'm going to let you kind of take the lead on this. And because you were talking, I sent you a video
Mhm.
and it kind of kick-started you on this, that you had already been, you were like, this is exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
And you were like, I want to talk about this. And so I'm going to kind of let you take the lead on this because I agree with you after we discussed it that this is a problem. It's a problem. And it's something that you and I have both been kind of, I think it's quite possibly the reason why we try to balance the show is because we could overtake this entire show with the spinning out of the world in political sense and make the whole show a political show of us just spinning out in this direction and then this direction and then this direction. And we realized that, first of all, there's plenty of shows that do that, but also that this show, I don't have it in me to do that. And I'm a political guy. Like everything I do outside of my life, besides Legos, is political. But and also I just think that like we realize that our audience doesn't want that. Our audience doesn't want us to be completely political. Now we'll tackle a subject if we have the subject matter wrapped up. Like we know, like this is what it is, and we're very, very careful not to go into speculative territories. And
Which we've talked
which is
about at length a bunch of times before, like what you all don't see and hear about this show. There was a period of probably 3 months where we wouldn't touch the Middle East because we're like, I'm still kind of absorbing what's going on with this Israel thing, and I'm not going to be. I don't want to be the guy on First Take with the talking head that is talking out of my ass when I don't have a good grasp of it. And we do give
I would say
what
that's
we
the
put
same
out a
thing
lot
with
of
what's
thought.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's going on with the Epstein files right now. I'm not going there because first of all, I don't think that anything that we're going to talk about will have any impact or effect on what and who will be taken into account and accountability on that topic. Plus, it has been such a roller coaster of information, and what's true, what isn't, has been such a problem that and it is at the center of it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about it because I have no personal impact on it. What's going to happen will happen, whether or not people go to jail or not, whether or not any of it was true or not. And we really have better things to discuss at this point. I assumed 4 years ago that everything that was in those files were true anyway.
Yeah.
I just already made, we all kind of collectively knew that. So now it's just a matter of, okay, do we get to sit through 2 years of congressional hearings before everyone gets slapped on the hand or some other major catastrophe happens and we all get sidetracked over there? Like, I'm done. But we're talking Kansas City Shuffle. We're talking a video I sent you by JP Sears, who's the comedian guy who typically has some pretty good takes on things and has since basically the COVID era.
Yeah, his presentation is extraordinarily satirical, and it always is deeply embedded with a message. And it's meant to be so in your face that it's pretty easy to draw conclusions and stuff. And essentially the video that you sent was he's arguing with himself, like portraying a conservative voice for conservative movement, which is also the truth for his brand. And he's arguing with himself back and forth about, if I say this about this topic, then these people are going to say that I'm anti this. But if I acknowledge that, then the home base is going to say that's a lie and that I'm untrustworthy. So what about this over here? And he makes a point for like 3 minutes of tackling almost every major touch point subject with logic or an appreciation for a conservative viewpoint, and then completely undercutting it by either a very rational argument that may or may not be based in truth, or a very irrational argument that would isolate his base. And the idea was essentially to get the viewer to think you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And it got me, my response was immediate and probably in all caps, like, yes, exactly that. But upon like really digging and tearing this apart, I find that I am inundated with a bunch of information that comes from social media. And that's not a very trustworthy source, no matter what the information is. And I don't care who the author is, because it's very algorithmically driven, like most social media things. And I don't mean most, I mean 99.99% of the hot takes, the information, or when I learn about something close to in the moment is from 2 or 3 or 4 main social media sources, being the platform, not the person sending me the information, because that comes from everywhere. And I started to think, that's kind of fallible, because you raised a very interesting point. The Epstein files, even if something was dead nuts true, like this occurred, and here's video evidence to prove it, and a whole bunch of signatures and thumbprints, and we all know that this thing happened. Even that's being manipulated by AI. Like, there's a lot of falsifications coming out. There's a lot of artificial fact checkery that's coming out. There's a lot of people that are like, hey, you should look at this. And then later going, well, that was just photoshopped from a long time ago, and now we have to scrub for AI filters. And it's pushing me further and further back from consuming information, because I'm inundated with it, but not to the degree that you are. And what I find is very interesting is that you are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, inundated with political something or other, local, national, situational, religious based, non-religious based, Groyper, this, that, the other thing. I don't know how you haven't blown a gasket, because my well for putting up, or my well of tolerance for that stuff is getting lower and lower as time moves on. And it's not because I want to bury my head in the sand. It's because I don't like being told by some talking head that may or may not be AI generated how to think about a specific situation, agnostic of what party line it's on. It's either you pick a side or you're not worth it, and then you like bubble that up to the way that politics are being handled. Washington State's a great example of this. I don't think a single person in a position of government in Washington State cares one way or another if you're a left-wing voter, a right-wing voter, or a no-wings voter. They're going to do whatever the hell they want, no matter what. And they're proving that over and over again by saying, You know what? When I declared support for this, the numbers didn't come in yet. They're still not in, and I'm still going to support it. And I don't know what it's going to do, but I'm here to tell you in front of a camera, I'm going to support this. That's like reckless disregard for the people whose lives are being impacted by this stuff. But now that that's all we eat, sleep, drink, and consume over and over again, and when my source is really only coming from social media because I don't trust media, and we've talked about that for hours on the show over the last few years, it's got me really recognizing that the message in that JP Sears thing is pretty much spot on. I'm burnt out. I hate it. It's not like I don't care. I care very much what happens to the people, to the constituents, to our voting base, to the civic act of voting itself, which is like been nominally under fire for a decade now, and now there's real reason to believe that a lot of stuff is just not working well with intent. And all these bad actors and all these government things, it makes it feel like my life is conspiracy corner, and the rest of this is just noise for clicks. And I know there's nuggets of truth in there, and I know that there's people that are reporting hard data, and I could even cite some sources that have been proven to be very accurate with the things that they say because they're very transparent with their intent. And I still don't want to see it.
Right.
And most of the time, if something's off or they change their mind, I question myself now, well, fuck, is that AI that's regenerated something they've said? And then I have to cross-check the information that I'm fed through. And I'm like, why do I spend the time? Like,
and that's the thing, is that's what is the, I think, intended purpose is to fill the void with so much noise that it takes so much time and energy to sift through all that nonsense that any real nuggets of reality or truth that kind of gets filtered and sifted through will eventually fall on the ground in the annals of time, and you will be able to kind of collect those, which is like kind of how we're kind of operating now. We're kind of just stepping back and letting it all just kind of, we're not trying to get up in there and sift through it. We are literally stepping back and letting it all come through the filter, and once it hits the ground, then we can go, okay, cool. And I think that's actually a healthier approach, that as a society, we've all not only decided to collectively ignore, but that we've been literally propelled by social media to ignore. That they're like, no, get in the fray, go in there, get into the maelstrom, get inside that storm and try to pick out truth in the middle of it, get lost in it, and then get sucked down some rabbit hole or some other thing that makes you a total lunatic and completely unreliable, or somebody who everyone just kind of rolls their eyes at because you decided that you like this particular theory. Instead of actually just taking a reasonable, realistic, logical back step, as we used to do as humans, sit back and go, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till the dust settles.
I agree. Like what you said is dead on, and a callback to that would be the new normal would be sick. The two problems that I see with that, on the one hand, if you don't spend enough time on the soundbite or the video clip, and you swipe off of it because the point that was going to be made was 3, 4, 5 minutes in, and we don't have the attention span for that. The second you swipe off of that, you're not going to A, get the message at all, and B, it's telling the algorithm not to feed you information like that. So you're hurting yourself, for one. So you have to commit. And then the second part is, like, when all this stuff filters down and hits the ground and we're able to digest it, and you and I are living proof of this on this show, shit moves so damn fast that we're unable to keep up with how we actually landed on a thing that happened a week ago or a month ago, because we're on to the next big crazy bullshit that's popped up. Because social media is exactly what you said. It's a get in the fray and then rabbit hole yourself into this. And it's time eating. And I don't even really trust the platform as the delivery source of truth, no matter what. AI is making it harder by the second. It's tough, man. Like we do a pretty good job of trying to like unpack some stuff when we're sitting down and talking about it, but we're not even capable of following up on the threads of discussion that we've had. We're like, we'd love to know how this thing lands once it gets through the Senate. once it get, you know what I mean? Like once the court trial is closed and stuff, it's fucking hard, dude. And like,
Yeah.
that was what was driving I guess my emotion behind my response to that. But it was like, yeah, exactly that. Like it's so difficult. And I think it's by design, but man, it's hard even when you're trying to catch the stuff that falls through the sifting machine toward the end to absorb and actually put challenged thought into your opinion on something before we move on to the next too, you know, like, and those two things are just actively working against us just by the nature of this machine today. But I agree with you. It's just really hard. It feels like a full-time job to find the truth and then actually do a follow-up on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, we're two younger guys, but we're still in the workforce and we're still you know, managing our day-to-days, and there just isn't enough time to be able to sift through it all. And I probably do it more than you because it's literally become between my wife and I, it has become our, you know, when guys I kind of attribute it to like when guys get really into sports statistics, you know, and they're statisticians for baseball or for basketball or whatever, and you kind of, or building the fantasy football teams and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? And so it's a hobby in a sense for us, that is attached to a lot of like conviction and care because this is real life, real world stuff that matters. But that's probably why we spend more time doing it. Also, you know, the involvement of our kids when they were in school, and the school was trying to do some less than stellar things with how they were operating. So kind of we had involvement there, and then with the business and with all that stuff, it kind of was affecting our day to day, and it kind of launched us into kind of that need to be on top of this stuff. And then my wife is just kind of a human computer when it comes to storing information, and so this is right in her wheelhouse. This is her autism.
Right.
If we want to kind of bring it back to that, this, you know, her autism is to be able.
But it's nice
to
to have
not
a
only
partner in this where
Right.
the two of you can
we can bounce stuff off of
chew
each
on
other and
something
feed
together. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
hmm
And I
And
know
so
that
we have
I
that.
don't. Like, I really don't.
Yeah. You do a little bit with me, but not in the same amount of time that
Sure.
her and I have, you know. So,
And-
and you know, that was actually, you know, when I was coming down to your house,
Yeah.
you know, a week out of the month, we would spend enormous, like, people don't realize this. They probably think that when I went to Vegas and stayed at your place and I was working, I was off doing Vegas-y things, you know. And I'm like, no, not at all. In fact, we ate mainly at the house. Every once in a while we would go out to get some food. However, most of the time we were sitting on your couches talking about this stuff for hours while we played Mario Golf in the house, like for a week. So, and we would just like absolutely spill over these topics. Any hot topic that was going on during that week, you and I would be able to chew it up. But you know, I haven't been down there since October, so like the only time that we get is a little bit Monday nights, you know, but mainly Tuesday nights, you know, or a little bit over, you know, social media. But if I send you you know, we send each other back and forth video reels, but not enough for us to actually be able to come back to the topics that we've discussed, to do updates, to be able to find out where things landed, to find those nuggets of truth. We basically can only do the smallest amount of these things, and I'm finding, like you are, that we are stuck in a weird place where there's things going on in Minneapolis where I don't know how I feel about certain things. Now, do I support ICE? Of course I support ICE. Do I think that there's extenuating circumstances that are coming in that never was in other previous administrations that are obviously being militarized against ICE when it never had before and creating riot like situations and people are dying because of it. Yep. Do I think that there are things that, people are arguing back and forth? You got your libertarians that are saying, hey, they should be able to have guns at protests, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not always the case. Sure, that guy was a licensed gun owner, but you also know as a licensed gun owner not to engage with law enforcement. You also know not to go against them. And they're like, well, what about Kyle Rittenhouse? Okay, well, Kyle Rittenhouse was assisting law enforcement.
Right.
Not going against law enforcement. So the nuances of these things are too much. It's too, like, I can't keep up with what's going on in Minneapolis. And I honestly, at this point, have gotten to the point where I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. And that's a weird place to be. I don't, especially from the last 5 years of me being so heavily inundated, to going to, I don't care what's going on there. I don't care what's going on with the Epstein files. I don't care what's going on with this. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. And
yeah, I had a conversation similar vein 2 nights ago where there's the topic of the gal that's the mayor of Seattle was basically writing new laws and just making proclamations from her apartment about, she's encouraging the police department to stand against ICE enforcement and all this other stuff. And they're going to put all these millions of dollars toward, supporting immigrants and all this other stuff. And it standing in wild opposition to logic, state constitution, state law, federal law, all kinds of stuff. And everyone is taking a side. And I was like, they asked for my opinion because I was a resident there for 14 years. I left for very strong reasons, which we've discussed at length on this show. And I said that pretty simply, like, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, this is what Washington voters want. Now, for a city, hear me out, for a city that is touted as one of the most educated cities in America, if you're left wing or right wing or no wing, you had to have looked at this woman's resume and thought to yourself, no matter where you land on the political spectrum, if you have literally less than no experience at this job, perhaps we shouldn't make you in charge of a city with this big of a budget, right? Like, you're not qualified for the job. And that's pretty obvious, I think, no matter where you land on the political spectrum. However, if it's anti-current administration, we're just going to blindly do whatever. And I think that's a product of all of this media engine, right?
Yeah.
Like, so no matter what, this is what you want. You want leaders like Bob Ferguson and this woman and everyone else to turn your city into Detroit. That's what you want. Yep. And you have the agency for a little while longer to get the hell out of there. California state is making that agency less and less possible because of financial restrictions in the form of long-term tax implications for leaving the state. Whether you're a business or you're just a single person, they're making that hard for you. And it's not going to be long before Oregon and Washington and everyone follow suit. Where are they going to come up with that money in this make-believe land of, you started your term with, I think it was, what was the deficit? $7 billion or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
A radical amount. I'm going to get crucified for not knowing this number because I talked about it a lot online. You started at a radical big number deficit and have absolutely zero plan to get anything done. And we're virtue signaling, trying to get the police departments to stand against federal agents that are enforcing immigration stuff. And I'm just like, this is what you wanted then. You had to have.
Yeah.
You knew this going in and still voted this woman as mayor, who's now pretending to be the governor, who's not much better, who's pretending to be the czar. And I don't have an opinion. This is what you wanted.
No.
Enjoy it, I guess.
And then
it doesn't bother me anymore.
You and I can sit back and munch on popcorn and laugh at the
Yeah.
absurdity of it. But the reality is when people ask us, we're like, well, that's what they voted for.
Mhm.
Like, that's what they wanted. And it sucks because honestly, most of the state did not. But you've allowed those two counties
Mhm.
to control the entirety of the state. So I don't know what else to tell you. Either take your state back or enjoy and or move, get out of the state before they don't allow you.
And I think the window to do that is right now. And the reason I think that is
Yeah.
because specific to Washington, I'd mentioned, I said I support this and the numbers are not shaken out just yet. And I still support it no matter what the numbers say. That was in reference to a Bob Ferguson public statement this week already about the millionaire tax. So
Yeah.
they're going to
Mhm.
implement extra taxes. And the context to the quote was, I said I would support this with a significant portion of that money going back into Washingtonians' pockets. And he reiterates that a few times. I said the same thing in the State of the State address. I'm here telling you the numbers aren't shaping up yet, and it doesn't make sense on how that's going to happen. And I still support it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
time to get out of town. Because what do you think that's going to do to the remaining businesses with headcount tax the way it is up there? With all the millionaire
Yeah.
people sitting on all the board of directors of some pretty significant companies in Seattle, by the way, that are going to start leaving. Like,
Yeah.
okay, where's this money supposed to go? Well, the numbers aren't shaping up, but the governor's still going to full-fledged enforce it for reasons that remain unclear. Goodbye. Like, it's happening now, you know?
Yeah.
And
you're gonna start seeing that in Virginia too. They just
Yeah.
they just flipped blue and
50
they slapped
50
on
new taxes
55
in like a
55
week and
new
a half.
taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's absurd. It's like fish tank taxes and stuff like
dog
that.
walking
It's
taxes and like I read that and
insane
laughed
because
for a woman that ran on like affordability and cost conscious stuff was like the principal,
right.
and immediately introduces 55 new taxes for that state. It's like, well, I hope Virginians enjoy being West Virginians pretty soon, because I don't know
Yeah.
how they're going to sustain that for too much longer. It's absurd. But all this stuff
yeah.
all at once with, you know, people that look to me, pockets of my life, not everywhere, but pockets of my life, people look to me for an answer. Like, well, what do you think about this? Like, I respect you think things through. I respect it. Like, tell me what your take is on something I'm just being introduced to. And I'm like,
Right.
they voted for it. I guess this is what they wanted, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that's
It's really
and we
tough
have
to
to-
keep your head above the water, man.
and principally, on a principle level, we're supposed to support that. We're supposed to support the fact that if the people voted for it, it's what the law of the land should be.
Yeah.
Now, on a big enough scale, we have enough people barely in this country that support the opposite of all that horrible nonsense
Yeah.
to keep us our nose just above water. But we're drowning. We're drowning in the fact that most of the metropolitan areas control the governing seat of how that state operates. So you are subject to it, and we're not winning that battle. We're slowly drowning.
Mhm.
And we're watching state by state kind of collapse, and we'll take our little red victories here and there, you know, and keep fighting the good fight. But, you know, we're not really winning. And I'm not trying to black pill or anything. I'm just basically kind of looking at it from, we've lived in these areas. We've visited these areas. We know people that live in these areas. This isn't like distant kind of nonsense. This is, you know, personal experience. And it's part of, like you said, the grinding machine of the social media that perpetuates the ideals that perpetuate the policies. I mean, there was in Washington State, Brandy Cruz, who was kind of a leftist journalist and has kind of like over the course of the last 5 years gone independent and kind of snapped out of a lot of it. She's interviewing somebody from the city council
I
of
saw that.
Seattle. And this guy is literally without breaking, without cracking a smile. And she's literally calling him an idiot to his face, and he doesn't seem to understand.
Mhm.
And he's sitting there defending the fact that they feel that all of the money should be taxed out of the people so that they can give sex change operations and hair removal laser treatments to prisoners in Washington state on the taxpayer dime. And and to him it seems like obvious, like, yeah, of course. This man was voted into office with these kind of ideas, with this kind of lack of understanding of even the basic concepts of how a city economy works or a state economy works.
In a city, by the way, where the homeless crisis, and I say that word with like conviction because I lived there and it's only gotten worse, is completely out of control. And they're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let's find a way to continue to virtue signal and interweave some form of social justice logic into the fact that we can justify additional taxes for something that means nothing to nobody as far as people that are already imprisoned.
Right.
Like, how does that?
I mean,
how does that help the
homeless
people
crisis,
that are actively paying those taxes, though? In
their
any way,
solution was right. Well, their solution is to use more taxpayer dollars
right?
to then provide facilities and people operating those facilities to actually give the fentanyl and the meth to people by way of them actually physically injecting them. This has been proposed as a system in the state of Washington as of this legislative session. They're actually talking about creating facilities where drug addicts and homeless can go in there and actually have a practitioner, a nurse of some kind, actually give them their drugs so it'll be safe on taxpayer dollars. So and to procure them through the state through nefarious places so it's less dangerous. So the major drug cartels are going to sell their drugs, their illegal drugs, to the state of Washington so that the state of Washington, all through taxpayer dollars, are going to create facilities with people who will then actually physically inject them into homeless drug addicts so that it's safer on taxpayer dollars. This is reality. And so when I say I don't care they voted for this, this is the absurdity I'm talking about. How am I supposed to wrap my head around that in logic and actually give you an opinion outside of, because what you want from me is an opinion of how to stop this or how to reverse this, or if I agree with this. You want that kind of opinion. I can't even give you any of that because it's so absurd. I'm just like, it's what they voted for. Let them. I mean, it's their circus, their monkeys,
and the obscene volume and velocity of stuff just like that coming at you all day long. That's the part where I'm just like, everyone needs to find a way to unplug for a second, and it's getting harder and harder. I mean, truly harder and harder. There are, I watch much less television this last year than I did in years prior to that. And it's nice because I can find creative ways to focus energy on things that I enjoy doing, noodling around on a guitar, working in the garage, whatever. There are a few shows that I'll watch, like internet shows or stream things about a tabletop RPG game. And there's two that I principally kind of like tune in for. Like, oh, this is coming up on Wednesday night or Friday night or whatever. I'll watch it. And even then, the social justice headers on the warning, viewer discretion advised, tying into, hey, if there's a scene acted out in this regarding this fictitious organization known as the Second Inquisition, we realize that may disturb some viewers with what's going on in the world today. So we apologize if you're triggered, and, please take care of yourself. And then it ends in fuck ice. And it's like, dude, we come to these shows to get away from that stuff.
Right.
so that we can have a little escapism in a world we know is not real, and we get to watch actors portraying characters that we're following a story on. And
Yeah.
even there, we're not safe from the social justice machine that everyone will start flooding comments with hearts and emojis, and you're just like, why am I even here? Like, there's nowhere I can turn. A book, maybe.
And we are inundated on that end of the spectrum, but we're also inundated on the other end of the spectrum too.
Yeah, for sure.
Where I've got people battling in the, let's just call it the right wing stratosphere of the political spectrum, right? And you've got all of these, nationalists, which, I mean, in theory, I'm a nationalist because of the fact that I believe that nations exist and should have borders, and that we should have pride in our country. Not in a ethno state sense of it, though. I think that I have no problem with the idea of the state of Israel.
You know how I oversimplify trying to describe that to people? Like, I'm a nationalist in the way that I root for America in the Olympics because I want us to win and show out and do really good. Not in the way that you're trying to label me.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to boil it down to,
Right. But I mean, we've got to understand that, America is unique in the history and so we cannot apply the same principles. Like, I think France should be for predominantly French people. It is France.
Right.
Same thing with Japan. Same thing with Israel. Same thing with all of the other nations. Now, does it mean you can't live there and we can't go back and forth legally? No, I'm totally okay with that. However, America is very unique in its inception. So we have to be understanding of some variables that are nuanced in that consideration. However, the right wing side of things, man, it's a knee jerk reaction, obviously, to what we were just discussing. Now, everything over here is just so brutally insane that the pendulum swing is so hard over here that, man, it is one after the other. All the people that I used to watch online are all infighting now and are all batshit. They're all nuts. Like,
everybody's high on their own supply.
Right. You get the Candace and the Tuckers and all of the crazy people. I used to love watching Ian Carroll. Ian Carroll would show us that all the corporations owned all the cereals or all the shampoos or all the bread, and he'd be like, look, and he'd take you down that rabbit trail. Right. Now he's off into, every problem in the world is Israel. And I'm like, okay, you're lost to me too. And now he's fighting with Nick Fuentes because they hate each other. And Nick Fuentes is defending Jeffrey Epstein. And it's crazy. So that whole side of things, and everyone's attacking each other over there because none of them actually base any of their principles biblically, but also just on what actual conservatism is, what actual republicanism is, what actual foundational government that constitutionalism is. They all want their caveats, and they all think that it should be a particular way, and they all are being loud and forceful about it, and they're infighting, and it's totally nuts over there. So you can't tell who's telling the truth, who's the good guy. They're all slinging mud at each other, and they're all coming up with crazy cockamamie stories, and they're all nuts. And so I've trimmed down all of the things that I watch down to nearly nothing. I don't watch any of those people anymore. I used to spend hours and hours watching all different types of content, and now I'm like, well, this one's gone too because they're off the rails and they're off the rails. And so now it's trimmed down to maybe like 3 people that I even watch. And even them, it's almost to the point where I'm like, Now basically I have to defense watch and watch local podcasts that hate me personally, because of just security reasons and defense reasons, and to see what lies they're spreading locally in my own town about people I know and trust. And so it wears thin. Like tomorrow, every Wednesday, I have 2 shows I have to watch at double speed just to pick stuff up. Most of the stuff that they talk about is so insane and absolute lying nonsense, but I have to make sure that they're not spreading rumors about my church, my pastor, me, our friend Stephanie, legislators and senators in the area that are good people that these people just hate because all of us don't hate the Jews enough, and that's it. And so it's insane to me that on both sides we're so inundated that you don't know where to take a stance on without. I mean, I know principally where I stand, but do I need to put it out there? Do I need to watch everybody else's stances, or do I need to put mine out there in a way that because I know that I'm going to get attacked, or I'm going to, from like JP Sears is talking about, like, where, like, do you not understand the nuance of these things? And because people don't want to, then it becomes a firestorm of craziness. And so you just kind of back away and you're like, all right, none of this makes sense. And you end up
it's a tricky
in
thing,
the blender.
Man. It's a tricky thing in that, like, it's so easy now to have an opinion and a voice and put yourself on the internet that everyone thinks they're entitled to.
Right.
And now there's so many voices and everyone has to pick a side. And then even that side flip-flops from time to time. And you have to decide if you're still on that side. That the whole shell game idea of it is kind of absurd on its face. If you like really take a helicopter view of like what you're looking at, it's like a lot of these people probably shouldn't have a voice on the internet. And some would say that about you and I, and fair.
Yeah.
Like
Totally
I get
fair.
it, but feeding the machine by this endless consumption that is now almost an expectation, I'm starting to kind of recoil from, where I'm like, I don't have the constitution to do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And that's kind of in defense of us a little, why we talk these things through, why we don't just jump on an opinion about something for sometimes months after it occurs, because we don't have the full picture yet, and I don't want to speak so unintelligently to a situation because I saw something on Instagram that I like now have a take on, that I'm first to act kind of deal. For what? Like, it helps nobody. I think it adds to the noise, and I'd prefer not to,
Well, let me push back on us not, like, our opinions not mattering in the same sense as all the other people we were speaking about. And there's 2 reasons. One, we, like you said, we don't jump on the story immediately because of the fact that we are thoughtful enough to want to process it. But 2, let's take a look at the amount of earnings we've made with this show.
Yeah, I'll do it right now.
So just so that people are aware, the monetization of that fuels the fire of the misinformation, disinformation, of the taking aside of all of that, which there's absolutely a money trail on every single one of the people that we just discussed. But the fact of the matter is that we can tell you exactly how much we've made on this show since its inception 2 years ago. And you're going to be shocked when Angel comes up with that number.
Let me screen share it to the pod here. There you go.
$8.26.
Yeah.
In 2 years.
Yep.
We haven't touched it. We haven't looked at it.
Our payout threshold is $10. And I promised that I would get us each a cup of coffee with it when we finally got our first $10. And we're almost there, friends. We're $8.26 lifetime total balance for the monetization of this show.
Right. And that is it.
That's it.
Yep. So when our opinions are our own and they're honest. So
Yeah.
you may agree with them, you may disagree with them, but you can't say that they're bought. You can't say that they're being pushed in a direction for the sake of what gets clicks. Because honestly, we're not getting enough clicks for it to matter.
And that
So
also should prove we're not feds, just for those that live in your area that want to think that we are. Just going to throw that out there. If we're feds, our budget's very small. I'm not paying my mortgage on $8.26 over 2 years.
And I don't have a mortgage.
Yeah, in this economy, my God.
Yeah. So yeah.
Most recent payments, by the way, on that screenshot said not yet made. You've not received any payments. That's what it said in the card underneath the total balance. Should have read that out loud too. $8.26, guys. $8.26.
So first and foremost, pay us more money. Everybody should be.
If you want to sponsor the Modern Relics podcast, I'm just kidding.
Just super chat us.
There you go.
You know, yeah, we can take super chats. We'll read them off. You know, all the other shows do that. But if you have questions, super chat us. Send us some cash.
And that was the money grub for 10 minutes. That was the other thing that, like, I think when we started this, like, we kind of knew, we didn't know what it would become. We knew where we wanted to go with it. And I think we've pretty much nailed what we wanted to do, more or less. But also, it wasn't to, you know, hey, man, 6 months from now, we're the next Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I have a job, you have a job and family. Like, we do this because we really enjoy doing this. And I really look forward to it. But I'm just saying, for the topic of tonight, that was articulating something that's been on my mind for a long time, that JP Sears clip where it was like, if you go this way, you can only go so far before then that. But then if that happens, then this. And the whole house of cards is really how I feel as a consumer of media, social media. Now, you know, off-ball storytelling, like it's everywhere. You can't hide from this stuff. And it's, for what it's worth, tiring. It's tiring to find your way.
Tiring.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Anyway, we went on for over an hour about being pissy with social media. You have a fun conspiracy corner this week, do you not?
I do. This one has popped up quite a bit over the course of probably the last 2 years, and it's an older theory than that, but it's gaining momentum, and it can be connected through a couple of different avenues. Now, this is the mud flood theory.
Yeah.
And the mud flood theory, not to be confused with the Noahic, you know, Noah story of the global flood from the Bible. So let me get my hat on before we get into this.
When the tinfoil hats come out, everyone watching and listening, you got to know the segment, all personal and professional credibility is out the window while these hats are on. It's conspiracy time. We're going to pick a side. We're going to do it. We're going to do what we just said we hated doing. Let's go.
So there's a lot of different avenues of connection on this. Now, most of this is kind of Reddit streamed. A lot of the information flow is on Reddit, and there's a lot of chat rooms on it that have multi-thousands of people in these chat streams, and YouTube has probably in the realm of that I could find 20 to 50 short to 3 hour long presentations, whether being for or against this theory. So this is something that a lot of people have invested time into. Now, I don't really fully understand it because of the fact that there are different schools of thought as to why what the actual reasoning behind this theory is, because there has to be a motivation behind this theory in order for it to work, and people have different opposing theories, whether it be from an alien perspective, whether it be from a flat earth perspective, whether it be from neither, and it's just ancient race of Tartaria perspective, or a combination of all of that. There's a lot of different kind of that funnel into this concept that
there's even some like occult propaganda stuff tied to this as well, that
right,
like resurfaced
exactly.
in the 80s and stuff. So yeah.
True, yeah. So during the late 1700s to the early 1800s, there was a series of events that you could connect the dots over the globe, but specifically over the United States, but even in major metropolitan areas in Europe and other places, that there was a major kind of catastrophe that kind of cascaded over the course of between 1800 and like the 1860s.
Yeah.
That was the prime spot where every major city in the United States and in Europe, there was a catastrophe flooding of mud that covered up what was ancient civilizations with ancient technologies, and that we erased history. A bunch of people died, like global event, many lives were lost, and there was a big
this is like a lost city of Atlantis a bunch of times.
Right.
Okay.
And it's all based all around this concept of Tartaria. And I haven't really kind of pieced together. I've watched a few videos, but I haven't pieced together why Tartaria is kind of the central. And I don't know if it's just because it's reminiscent of Tartaria disappearing like it did, which was a not really a country, but it was a region in Central Asia that on a lot of ancient maps from the 1500s to the 1700s, there was a region called Tartaria, which was basically under Mongol rule. And they were supposedly, you know, Hyperborean advanced people that eventually over time just kind of dwindled out.
What does Hyperborean
in China and
mean?
Russia? It is an ancient people like Conan.
Oh, okay.
But he was Hyperborean, but like prehistory, you know, prehistory kind of civilizations that fantasize the idea that they had technologies that were far more advanced than after the Middle Ages. So, and so that the Dark Ages basically were an area of time where we forgot all of our technology, and that it was a reset. This is kind of the next reset of this Tartaria kind of thing, and that we are living in the structures that were built upon this reset, and that the technology is gone, but we have like the remnants of these monolithic structures. All of our buildings look like Greek and Roman structures.
That's what's interesting to me. They're justifying this notion by the architecture principally, right?
Correct. Yeah, almost entirely principally on, and the fact that there are certain buildings throughout cities like New York and Boston and all these kind of mainly East Coast cities, but you even find them in West Coast cities like San Francisco and Seattle, where you see that the windows and there are weird doors and stuff that, and architecture and carving, you know, like really ornate carvings that go sub-level, like below concrete, below the foundation, and you'll see a half a window there, and it's framed out and everything, and then there's subfloors underneath that, and then there's weird staircases that take you up to the foyer instead of it being at ground level. Now, this is all of the evidence that they're kind of pushing for this mud flood, that at some point, and there is a lot of recorded history of these floods happening all over during that time frame, that took over major metropolitan areas. But they're saying that it was an intentional reset and how that got pushed forward. But all of the ancient structures prior to it were built by giants or by people with much more advanced technology than we currently have. And
yeah, that's where I'm willing to take the leap right up until we get to exactly what you just said, which is
right.
But because of aliens or giants or other things, it's like, well, there is some recorded history of Skid Row and sliding out and taking out, you know, there's a Seattle Underground with detailed accounts of how that happened and why it is the way it is. And There's a lot of
Right.
reasons that point to that, but I never knew
They actually
we're taking the leap toward, Tartarian lifestyle
right.
and
Well,
aliens and
they kind of lump
Conans.
in the big fires too as part of it, because like Seattle's was a giant fire,
Yeah.
right? Took out Seattle,
Yeah.
and then they pushed the dirt from Capitol Hill over the city and then built on top of it, right?
Yep.
And that's why there's the underground tour in Seattle. San Francisco has a very similar background, earthquakes and fires.
And what do they have in
The
common?
flood.
Those cities are built on a very unstable, sandy, near water type of soil with lots and lots and lots of hills.
Right. Yeah.
Just quick correlation for geography buffs. Go on.
But yeah, so they think that there's a major cover up here, that so many people died that they got to kind of do another kind of timestamp reset, and that we made up some of the history of some of these buildings in order to kind of justify
Cover it
that
up.
our people,
Nice.
that our people actually built these things, right?
Mhm.
So the recorded floods.
I love that.
that
Your
I could
truth
find-
is the cover up. Ha ha. What? The
But
Mobius
recorded
strip of
floods-
logic that deploys is outrageous. I love it.
Right? Yeah. But the recorded floods that I could find were in Maine. There were 2 floods in 1806 and 1832 that covered up a lot of the area there. The Great Flood of 1884 or 1844, where the Missouri and the Mississippi River flooded all of the major metropolitan areas in that area. In 1847, there was a massive flood that Pennsylvania, Ohio, Maryland, and Virginia were all affected by. New Orleans flood of 1849. And they've flooded many times since then too. Red River was the Red River South flood in 1851 overtook Iowa and Nebraska. The Northeast flood of 1852, the Great Flood of 1862 that took out Oregon, California, and Nevada. The DC Philly flood in 1869 took out DC and Philly. Omaha, Nebraska, Iowa, all got flooded in 1881. Ohio and West Virginia in 1884. The East Texas flood of 1884 also happened. And then it went into even 1900, where like Michigan and California also had another one in 1900s. But the main chunk of this, basically from the Great Flood in Oregon and California and Nevada in 1862 to 1806 in Maine, that chunk fits this theory of they basically.
I mean, imagine my standing in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius and then trying to tell you Pompeii was a result of creatures covering up civilization and allowing lesser technologically advanced creatures to build on top of them, while Mount Vesuvius boils behind me in the same frame. Like, oh,
Well,
sure. I don't know.
Well, all this theory is based off of a lot of stuff that is based off of the Chicago World's Columbian Exposition in 1893, which was basically a big World's Fair that happened, and it was put on by a man named Daniel Burnham. And Daniel Burnham was essentially a architect and urban designer, but he was like this artist who really looked at the Parisian kind of French-inspired architecture and then Greek architecture and stuff like that, and wanted to kind of create a grandiose faux city, basically a fake city in Chicago at the time. And it was he was basically a P.T. Barnum building a like a theme park, more or less. And when people nowadays look back on the pictures, they're like, how did he do that in that time? Like, it's impossible. There must have been technology, or it was there before. And he, they did this thing with these giant statues and these buildings and everything. And it's just, but they do not take in, apparently nobody in construction is in these Reddit forums, because these aren't marble. None of these things are marble. These are cast plaster around wood frame concept pieces that
if I was not educated at all and I stood in the center of La Sagrada Familia in Spain and looked up, I would probably have the same reaction to Anthony Gaudi's work of modernism coming out of the Gothic period.
Yeah.
Right. But, you know, so, times change, and so do ideas, and art and architecture met, and it was kind of a cool, enlightened period for those folks over there. And you can see where the city stops being Gothic and starts being modernista, all throughout that region of Spain. It's pretty cool. And then it changes again. So I'm still not on board, but go on.
Correct. Yeah. So during this time frame, prior to the kind of heavy rebuilds of a lot of the metropolitan areas, you know, think about New York pre-1900.
Yeah.
And what that looked like. Think about Boston pre-1900. There's a lot of the buildings that you look at, and they were all built in the late 1890s to the early 1900s. And so you look at, there's some that are older, but not very many, you know, and you look at what happened during that Chicago kind of World Fair situation, and they bring up the idea that there was a ton of technology that at that fair that was introduced, and you can look into the list and it's pretty impressive. Certain things that you're like, wow, that all happened at the same time during that fair. But one of the things is that got explained was that there was all of these heads of state and these, you know, city planners and builders that all over 27 million people, which is impressive for the time, showed up to this fair, looked at all these marvels, talked to, you know, Daniel Burnham, and went, well, we would love to do this in our city. And so they took these ideas back and brought them back to city planning, brought them back to state planning, and brought them back to all the people there. It's not really that much of a stretch to say that Philadelphia, the way that it looks now, was due to the fact that not only did they have some pretty good architecture that took decades to build, and then within this time frame, they built up around those with this kind of inspired Parisian architecture that they built up around it, and
absolutely
in a matter of years.
Years later, Seattle had a World's Fair, and they debuted the Space Needle, and direct correlation, there are now needles all over the ground in Seattle.
yeah, absolutely.
Or something. Go on.
Right. So yeah, you threw me there. All the East Coast cities. So
no, the idea you were discussing this with me pre-show. The idea that the design around some of the widened city streets and stuff was Napoleonic in nature, in that this twofold. One, the psychology of having something pretty and wide and big as like a feat of human engineering. People would not want war breaking out in those streets, so they would be more inclined to prevent that from happening in such an environment at a psychological level. But yet also having streets and grand broadways wide enough to march Napoleon's troops sort of in parade formation down the streets all at once for the kingdom to enamor over. That idea kind of is sound. Like, that seems to fit the architectural design language of a lot of the cities built with that type of blueprinting in mind. To me, that makes sense.
Yeah. Daniel Burnham, he was such a fan of the Napoleonic architecture, because Napoleon built those streets, like you were saying.
Fuck, everyone's got a hero, I guess, huh? Jesus, Dan.
Yeah, right. But he built those streets for a couple of reasons, and the architecture around it, and beautified it in order for the people of Paris to actually emotionally invest themselves into the architecture, so they would protect it, so that any invading groups, they would want to protect the architecture because it was so beautiful. He made the streets wide enough so that it would be harder to blockade. Like, you can't block a street off if it's the massive street and then two giant sidewalks. It makes it much harder. And then also, so like you said, he could parade his military down the central streets, and so that's why you get what you look in New York and Chicago in those bigger areas, those super wide streets. Like that's not a traditional city block. That is a much larger city block.
Yeah, it's design language taken from another idea. It's fun to theorize the reasons why. That theory does make a lot of sense as a reason why. But interesting how it manifests years later in modern cities. Yeah.
Right. Well, the movement actually they called it something. It was actually had a name, and it was called the City Beautiful movement. And they actually brought it from Boston or from Chicago to Boston to New York to Philadelphia, and everywhere that they could pitch this idea, it actually had a movement that was named. And it was something that they did to beautify the cityscapes, because they really didn't know how to do it. I mean, without kind of this inspiration, they were just kind of sprawling and building next to this thing and next to that thing, and there was no kind of like sound structure to it. That being said, all of this being said, there's another element to this of why they kind of go after him in this regard, because of the geometry of the cities, because of the symbolism in the cities. He was a Mason. He was a Freemason, and he built the giant Masonic temple building in Chicago. He was the one who put all the symbology into the Court of Honor and Grand Basin at the World's Columbia Exposition. Like, there was a lot of him being involved in during the time frame when the Masons actually were still a kind of global political threat and were pulling strings here and there through secret society stuff. I get that kind of angle, but it still doesn't explain the rest of the Tartaria. It doesn't explain the rest of the mud flooding.
Are we supposed to be
mad
at the Freemasons for all the symbolism and all the architecture, or are we supposed to be mad at Tartaria because we're not alone on this planet, kind of thing?
Right. And that's why it's really hard to kind of have a streamlined conversation about this particular topic, the mud flood theory, because there's so many moving parts and different people who have different ideas of what the motivation was for it to begin with, who was responsible for it, like what was actually affected, and ultimately why was the reset happen? Why couldn't we just all understand that this technology all got washed away in a flood, or all of these different kind of concepts? If anyone else knows or has done any more looking into this, and you can fill me in on motivational reasons, I would love to hear them. I would love to hear in an email, send us a message, comment, anything. Let us know, because I am super curious. But outside of that, I want to know the Tartarian kind of connection to the United States in the 1800s. How are you connecting those two things? How is it connected that we could have a global event over pockets, not like a global flood, but pockets that affected Europe and the United States at the same time? Who would be responsible for that, and why would they want to do it? I've got too many questions for me to be on board with this one.
Same.
Yeah, there's just way too many loose ends and not enough. Just not enough. But when you watch the videos, the serious tone that these people take with the idea that this is, in fact, true. It takes a very Ancient Aliens approach to it, where ancient astronaut theorists all concur well, who are ancient astronaut theorists? Like, who are these guys? Is it just the guy who's sitting on the chair next to you? You know, like it doesn't make any sense. Um, but it is a fun one to kind of contemplate
Yeah.
and to watch the videos. Outside of it being fun, I see zero legitimacy to it, so I am not buying into this one.
I'm not buying into it either, unfortunately. I mean, if it takes us, I don't know, 16 minutes to describe what it is and we're still not there, it's hard for me to buy because and I looked at some of the branches, dude. They branch. They go places.
Right. Yeah.
Now, weeks ago, I told you I wanted to commit to creating a conspiracy theory of my own that maybe we could launch one out there on the show. And right now, I've got a few front runners, but I also have some half-assed ideas. And I had a half-assed idea that I wanted to run by you while we got the tinfoil hats on. Sort of a half-assed conspiracy theory idea. Here it is. Rome would not have fallen if they had ESPN back then. All right. Not everybody could be at the games all at once. If they could see the games, though, from their huts and houses, I think there'd be a lot more common ground to talk with one another around Rome in those time periods. If they just televised the games through like an ESPN type of service, I think it would have drawn more people together at around camaraderie and gamesmanship and supporting the team. If they would have broadcast the damn games, Rome wouldn't have fallen. They just needed something like an ESPN back then. Kind of a half-assed idea. I'm still working through some.
I love this idea.
Yeah,
it actually works for me because I'm already envisioning that they would take ex gladiators and put them in bars as town callers and 100%. Put them in certain particular suits, and those guys would have people running back and forth, physically running, because that's all they could do. Physically running back and forth from the Coliseum to like the ale houses or whatever, where a bunch of guys are sitting there, and you have dozens of these all over Rome, right? All over the place.
Imagine the guys
if you couldn't get in the
casting
Coliseum,
being like, and during the intermission, we're going to go to our man on the ground, Grok, and they're going to send a dude several miles on foot to go get word from Grok. Everyone's gonna be stoked because they're like on pins and needles about what Grok has to say on the north end of town regarding some stuff that he heard about the match. And then, half to a full day later, this poor tired guy's gonna come back and transcribe what Grok said and then wait for a rebuttal. I think people would be on pins and needles. They can't wait to hear. And
they'd all be meshed together. They'd be talking about it's a community effort. If they had this system, I believe that we would still be speaking Italian to this 100%. Day.
So I know I got a few things to work out there. Okay. Do we not introduce carrier pigeons? How might that work? Things of that nature.
Right.
Does it matter? Stuff. But I truly think that would have been the special sauce that kept Rome in power. So I'm still working on it, right. But I wanted to pitch that tonight.
I think you're correct on that. Okay. So I want to hear some behind the scenes, some of the other theories that we may actually try to
I'll
spin.
take you to the Jewish controlled International Space Station if you want to go there. I've got all we've been in the lab, dude. We're
all right. Well, that should be fun.
So that was Conspiracy Corner. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, that was Conspiracy Corner. So,
and every groiper in America being like, oh, dude, what is it?
The space station? And then half of them are like, space doesn't exist, bro.
Yeah. You're fine, except for the Earth is flat and you can't get up there.
Oh, is that where they have the Jewish space lasers? Yeah.
Actually, that's kind of what it is. It's about weather control. So we'll more to come on some of those behind the scenes. Anyhow,
I think Marjorie Taylor Greene was kind of harping on that for a bit. So,
I love this podcast so much. All right,
So
we've got the dope, dude. You got
we do have
you
the
got
dope.
two dopes. It looks like. Oh no. You have a
No,
dope and,
nope.
and a movie, two movie reviews. That's what it is.
That's correct. Yeah. So this week, and I kind of like to shuffle around because I like there's different categories of dopamine that I pull in on a daily
Sure.
basis, and so a lot of them are kind of food based, and it's not necessarily the food; it's the creation of the food and the people doing it. Like recipes are secondary to how entertaining the delivery is of.
Yeah. Go on. I have to step away for a moment.
Okay. But other aspects, there's entertainment ones. I really love the entertainment ones. Where it like there's a website that you can scroll through and see a ton of different animated creatures that if you just keep building and building off of, or the Chad, the bird, stuff like that, or roll for sandwich, or there's so many different types of ones, but this one is a little unique that it's very soft, it's very cathartic, it's very low temp, and I love it because it's also kind of hyper intellectualized, where it takes some brain power from this guy, and I really enjoy it. And it's called Jose Monkey. And Jose Monkey is a guy who runs a website, and he's on every social media, and people send him. He's kind of a quirky looking dude. He's a bald guy with glasses. And I don't even know what his real name is. He's got a couple of side characters that he plays, but he plays a side character named, I think, Chad, and he's on TikTok, YouTube, Threads, Facebook, Instagram, all of the above. And basically people send him in a video from wherever you are in the world, and you try to keep it as obscure as possible. You can't block the screen, but you either hold up a sign or say to the camera and say, "Hey, Jose Monkey, find me." And then you do as much of a 360 as you can in any obscure place in the world, and I'm talking about the world, and then send him the video, and he will, in a matter of minutes, through cues in your video, whether it be
position of sun in the sky, license plates,
right, all
yeah,
of that stuff,
yeah.
license plate, buildings, mountain ranges in the background, and he will find you to your exact spot.
Yeah.
And he's really funny about it. He's really kind of just a really kind of likable character, and he takes you through the process of how he does it. He goes, "Well, I'll come back to that, but then I started looking at this sign where you could only get 3 letters, and I started picking apart those letters to see, oh, that's an insurance company that's only found in New Jersey."
Right.
So I looked around to their different offices, and then I found, this looks like the building that was right there next to this one, and then by that trajectory, you were standing right here. And we'll actually then do a Google Earth drop down to actually show you where you are standing. And he's really good at it, and it's just fun to watch him kind of pick apart place by place, and then he puts it on the map. And if you block too much of the screen, you owe him a video of your dogs, or a dog, because he loves dogs, and as a penalty shot. So but it's just real fun. It's that just slight little bit of dopamine that you need, something an innocent, kind of really family friendly hit of dopamine that you can just watch, and it's a blast. I love watching his videos because it kind of plays in my head the puzzle working kind of side of things that I really love, where he can, with his skill sets, solve a quick mystery by dissecting the puzzle pieces.
He's basically Sherlock Holmes with a computer.
Right, exactly. And it's a really fascinating to watch. And I think there are other people who do this too. I know that there's other people on the internet that have similar kind of concepts, but this one is the one that I enjoy the most, and it's a blast. If you have like a couple of minutes, he will entertain you and show you a new place in the world that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. So
there's actually, I've seen people play these games online and stream the content where like, I don't know exactly what the name of the game is, but essentially it provides you a 360-degree image, and then you have to narrow down like essentially what region of the country are they in, and so you have to start at the continent level, and then you really have to study the photograph and stuff. So I assume his is a highly specified modification to that general premise, but it's pretty cool. I've seen it, and then when you like guess, it's like, oh, you were, 800 kilometers away from, so good job, you were pretty close, or you were on the other side of the world, you totally missed the assignment, kind of thing. And you get little points and stuff, and there's leaderboards and stuff but it's just static imagery of somebody taking a 360 shot of somewhere on Earth kind of thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool though.
It's like geo chasing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and it's highly entertaining. You can watch it with your kids. You can watch it with with anyone, and it's a lot of fun. So, but yeah, so that is the dope of the week. And so now, Jose Monkey, go follow him on all of his social medias. He's fun. But now we're on to movie reviews. Did you watch anything this week?
Nothing substantial. I rewatched Equilibrium, which is still a weird movie, with what's his name? Batman, Christian Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale.
And I think Taye Diggs. It's very of its time. It was kind of a time eater. It was on in the background while I was doing other stuff, but I like the idea of their obnoxious like gun fu that they use in that movie.
I was going to say, I think it was the original, considered to be the original gun fu movie.
And to the level that it was portrayed Hollywood style, absolutely. That was probably what inspired a version of John Wick before John Wick to some degree. Yeah,
and even the Matrix to some degree.
Yeah.
I think it. Yep. So,
but yeah,
it's good movie.
It's fun.
All right, I'm gonna throw down on a little Taylor Sheridan goodness.
Okay. Let's go.
Because I finished up season 2 of Landman, and I don't know if you have.
No, but you can spoil it. It's fine.
I'm not going to spoil it. So, but this season had, the last season was just kind of, you were getting to know everybody, and there was a lot of good dialogue, but a lot of action, a lot of kind of gut punchy scenarios that kept pulling you through with some of the best writing in TV. Now, Taylor Sheridan's known for his writing in these things, but I think this cast, his writing, this set, and there was just something magical that happened with this show.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are really starting to recognize it. Even people who were fans of Sheridan's other work, with the Yellowstone stuff and all of that, they're really kind of coming around to Landman being kind of their favorite of his properties. And I don't blame him. This thing just keeps getting better. Now, this season was a bit of a slow roll coming out of the gate, and everybody was kind of wondering if it had lost its way and its understanding of what it was. But it seamlessly picks back up and goes into different directions that was just really solid writing, just really good, solid writing, where it felt natural for it to kind of progress into these different areas. And by the end of this series, you're excited. You're excited for the family. You're excited for the opportunities to come. You're excited for all of the different key elements. And that's what he does. He either leaves you crushed at the end of a season or excited for the next one, And so, and in this particular season, one of the key elements that really I loved was the addition of Sam Elliott as his dad, as Billy Bob Thornton's father. And the dynamic that those two guys have together is incredible. It's like they were made to be on screen together. And it's the pinnacle of, I think, both of their careers. And not to take away from Sam's career in any capacity, because the guy's a legend. And Billy Bob is too. But man, they really put Demi Moore far more front and center, and Andy Garcia from last season far more front and center in this, and kind of push you through the emotions of how you feel about these two characters, because you come into the season feeling one way about it, and then they kind of twist your arm into feeling a different way, and then twist your arm back into not being sure. And so it's been a fantastic kind of run with Demi Moore and Andy Garcia. But then you got Ali Larter, and Ali Larter is just an explosion in every scene.
Yeah.
And
She's
so
really a Tasmanian devil in all respects in the show. Yeah.
Right. And I saw an interview with Billy Bob Thornton, and they asked him what she was like. He goes, honestly, what you see on the show is pretty much mirrors our relationship in real life, outside of like the sex stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But besides that, he's like, we have the same kind of back and forth. She's a pistol all the time, but we love each other. Like we've known each other for years. And
I also think she lives in Idaho too.
She does. She lives in Sun Valley. So, but yeah, you've got your situational problems of the oil guys having a gas leak or this and that throughout the whole thing, or somebody dying and them having to figure out what to do with it. But then you've got the ongoing story of his son trying to make his own path, which really kind of accelerates in this season. And also what he's going to do with the widow that he's fallen in love with, of the young girl. The dynamic of the daughter, of Billy Bob's daughter, and Ali Larter as the mom. You've got new characters that are kind of being brought to the forefront of, the bossy, lawyer chick who's like coming in not knowing what she's doing, but kind of figuring out the tenor and the pace of this family and this group that she's now kind of been a part of, and then the business dynamics that are far more complicated in this one, because you start to realize that we lost John Hamm at the end of the last season. And Demi Moore has taken his place, but they're finding out what's going on with the oil company and what to do exactly, and there's options that are all over the place. Some should be taken and some shouldn't. And it really is kind of a riveting, business show on top of everything else.
Yeah.
So, but man, it really delivered. I'm really looking forward to season 3. The show gets better so far every season. We're only 2 in, but I'm giving it, I think last time I gave it like an 8.5. I'm giving it a 9 at this point. Nice. 9 megs. And so it's been fantastic. Highly recommend.
Can I pop off on Taylor Sheridan for a second here?
Sure.
I just want people to grasp a few things. Film work for screenplays: Sicario, Hell or High Water, Wind River, which he also directed, which is a pretty powerful film, Sicario: Day of the Soldado, Those Who Wish Me Dead, and Tom Clancy's Without Remorse. That occurred from 2015 to 21. Upcoming or in development, a show called The Madison, which is going to star Michelle Pfeiffer, so I'm in already. A show called 6666, which is a Yellowstone spinoff set on the famous ranch, and Y Marshals, another Yellowstone spinoff. And from 18 to 2023, his major TV series, Yellowstone 1883, Mayor of Kingstown, which I love. That's a Jeremy Renner flick that you can find or series that you can find on Paramount Plus. Is really good, like a crime thriller. 1923, Tulsa King, Special Ops Lioness, Lawman, Bass Reeves, Landman, and The Last Cowboy. Busy guy from 2015
Yeah.
to present day. Like,
this is Stephen King
absurd.
level prolific writing, right?
Yeah,
this is
and
like
he's
Clive
hitting.
Cussler.
Like everything
Yeah.
he's doing is
Nora
hit,
Roberts
hit.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got the formula.
That's a hell of a run, dude.
Yeah.
Just
he's
wanted to
got
put
the
that out
formula.
there.
He knows what people are looking to watch.
Yeah, because like we watched Sicario together, right? Like you hadn't seen that before.
Oh yeah.
It like
good movie.
The banger, and that was like 2015 and then 2018 for those. And I was a huge fan of Mayor of Kingstown. I didn't know that Taylor Sheridan was behind that until I like paid attention to the opening credits, and I was like, oh wow, how many shows is this guy doing at the same time? Well, turns out a bunch, both
right.
On the silver screen and for major TV series. But it seems like every idea he puts on a napkin gets turned into a hit series. So kudos to this guy, huh?
For sure. Yeah. I'm enjoying his stuff now. I would imagine there'll be a peak somewhere where trends will shift and he'll find himself doing documentaries or something. But at the moment, he's untouchable when it comes to like premiere TV writing and even So
whenever we switch our tastes off of something centered around a mysterious guy or an everyman that has to deal with an infinite number of problems throughout one day that continue to spin off and create sub problems, we'll probably move along. But Wind River was a crazy movie. Sicario was crazy. I really enjoy Landman as well. I'm very far behind. And then I never really got into the Yellowstones and stuff, but I did enjoy Mayor of Kingstown. It's really good. I think you'd like Mayor of Kingstown.
I might look into that. I like Jeremy Renner. So
I think they're in season 2 or 3 maybe, because season 1 happened and then Jeremy Renner got into that life-changing accident and stuff. So it was like a big ass gap.
Lost a leg.
Yep. And then they brought it back, the series back, and he's still kicking ass in it. So anyway, Taylor Sheridan, give us a super chat, man. No, I'm just kidding.
We'd love to hear from you, Taylor.
Yeah, let's bring him in, Taylor. No, I mean, crazy shit. But anyway, you had another movie.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to detract so far.
And the movie is excellent. It's weird, it's quirky, and I have a lot to say about it. So I watched a documentary with my wife this week, and this documentary just came out on Netflix. So you can watch it on Netflix, and it is based on, obviously, as a documentary would be, a true story, and it was directed by Jeremy Workman. And I think it had to have been done over a couple of years' time. But it is set around the early 2000s with a bunch of art school kids. And this place is called, the documentary is called Secret Mall Apartment. And so in 2003, 8 Rhode Islanders, because this all happened in Rhode Island, created a secret apartment inside a busy mall and lived there for 4 years, filming everything along the way. Far more than a prank, the secret apartment became a deeply meaningful place for all involved. So this guy by the name of Michael Townsend, he was a young art professor at a college in the area, and he was part of this kind of art group, and you see stuff like this in Seattle and stuff. And I grew up in kind of the punk rock element of this, where they'll take over abandoned places in like industrial areas, and I'll camp out there and live there and bring in furniture and then throw punk rock shows and do art installations and kind of just art mooch off of property that doesn't belong to them, and they end up camping and creating a, what's it called when people take over a house that they don't belong in? Squatting. So they're squatters. Like, so this whole squatting community of these punk rock dissident, screw the man, kind of conceptualists that all want to be a part of this kind of art ethos. And this was their pocket of it. I went through it in the 90s, with my friends, and then now this was this version of it, and Michael Townsend was part of that art community, living in this kind of dilapidated, rundown warehouse district, right? And while they were doing this and having these, punk rock shows every night and doing lots of drugs and, doing all that, he was also a professor at one of the local colleges teaching art and gaining a lot of respect in that community because he was really like bringing in these young people and kind of reinventing in their brains what art meant, instead of just putting chalk on paper.
Sure.
It was a life experience.
Yeah.
And so he was really kind of exploring that. Right now, that being said, during this time frame, this town in Providence, Rhode Island, had been under an economic crisis, and they decided to do a bunch of projects to revitalize the marketplace of industry in that area. And during the early 2000s, how you did that was retail. So they decided to build this gigantic mall, and it was all over the news, and he lived nearby it, and the art warehouses that they were squatting in were nearby it too, and he would just watch the construction of this thing. And as he was watching the construction of this thing, it was oddly shaped and it had weird angles and corners, and he realized that there was a part of it as he was watching it being built that had kind of a pocket that he was like, I wonder what's in there. And so he would wander around, and eventually he found through the parking garage a crack in in the cement that he could squeeze through, and he went through and he found this big kind of opening up in there that was about 700 to 800 square feet. And it was just construction materials and stuff had all just been left in there. And so he started bringing some friends in there. Well, hey, check it out. We can go into this secret hidden pocket in the mall. And then they found other ways to get in there that kind of popped you into the back corridors of it. If you've ever worked in a mall, there's all these back corridors, and it popped you into one of those areas with a door, and you can just kind of climb in and out, and staircases and such. And they started hanging out there. They stayed the night, and then they started cleaning it out, and then they started and they figured out the system with the cameras and with the security staff, and they would bring in couches and giant hutches and tables and plate sets and brought in a cord for electricity and played PlayStation there all night long, and had a grandiose kind of, and they went on, there was 8 of them at the core. And so there was Adriana, his wife at the time, Andrew, Jay, Patricia, and a couple of others. I think Brian, there was, and James. And so there was Emily, and Greta.
Dude, it's premises like this that make me thankful that mice are not technologically advanced.
Right.
Because mice do this.
Right. And so they built a living apartment that they would have kind of rotations on. They would all hang out there during the day, and they would do other art projects around the country. But that was kind of like their meeting zone, because at the same time, the mall had been built, and they were strip mauling. They were destroying all of that industrial area, and they kicked all of the squatters out. And then they decided to strip mall and build all of these old kind of mill sites, because they were all old mills. And so, but they were all kind of like historical buildings, and they knocked them all down in order to build this strip mall. And so there's video of them all getting kicked out of their squatting, mill houses, and they just got them all kicked out, and they were bitter about it, and they thought that this was kind of a pushback against the industrialization of modernity, of them pushing forth this commercialism, and that they were going to build society around commercialism. So it was kind of
gentrification, man.
Exactly. So, and that's what they were going against. And so this was kind of their secret way of like thumbing their nose, where they could live for free in this apartment, and that no one knew about, under the watchful eye of all the mall. But they would eat in the food, they would come out into the mall and wander around all day, and then go back in, and then go into the mall, and or go into the apartment. And this went on for 4 years. And now, having been on both sides of this, like was one of those punk rock kids that, was, all my friends were squatters and art kids and stuff like that. So I was there. So I understand the mindset. However, my age right now, with kids, with a business, with, being a responsible adult, I'm like, stop mooching, stop being squatters. That doesn't belong to you. This is irresponsible, and it's not art. It's dumb. Stop being dumb. But then the other part of me that sits there, like, my wife is currently at a city council meeting as we speak, and she's there to basically fend the city off because there's a piece of property that they have designated on Celtice Way that isn't being utilized properly. So they're just going to take it and they're going to build on it. And that type of, overreach of developers is something that we also fight, So there was no good guy in this story. Now, these art guys, they tried to kind of frame them as like the good guys, obviously, but they kind of went overboard with it, because the art planning that they did inside that apartment was that they would they'd make these plans, and he did these crazy, like, masking tape art pieces at children's hospitals is what he kind of learned to do with this. And they took this art concept where they would do these murals with masking tape, and they went to the Oklahoma City bombing memorial and actually did a big memorial piece in this temporary kind of masking tape art mural. And they planned it out, and it was a big thing. It was on the news and all that stuff. And then the next thing that they did is they spent 2 of that 4 years going back and forth to New York City to do these. At every place, they took a list of everyone who died in 9/11 and went from spot to spot and mapped it out in the city of where their occupation was or where their favorite spot was, and would do an art piece based on that person in masking tape of everyone who died. So there was some heartfelt significance to the type of art that they were doing: installation art, theater art, kind of conceptual art, right? And they, of course, they wrapped the whole thing up with, these kids were doing art at children's hospitals and for the 9/11 people and for the Oklahoma City bombing people. So they're the obvious heroes of the story, right? But really, they were just kind of camping and for 4 years in a place they shouldn't have been.
Vagrants.
And they ended up getting caught eventually, and no one really did any time. Like, the main guy, Michael, was the one who got caught there, and all 8 of them had to go to court for it. All the rest of them all got slaps on the wrist. He got like 6 months probation, and all of them were banned from the mall for life. They're never allowed to go back there. Ultimately, through this, he sneaks back in with the camera to go check out that room, because all of them because they built a wall with cinder blocks and with a door, and the door, they all had keys to the door to their apartment, and security had found it and kicked it in and then replaced it. But they they still have the door there, and he snuck back in with the key and unlocked the door, and it's all empty now, but he went back in at the end of the dock. But he's a quirky dude. It was very fascinating to watch, though.
Yeah.
Fascinating to watch how with confidence, these guys got around security multiple times where they almost got caught, like, hucking cinder blocks 4 at a time out of a car into a door that the alarm's going off, and they're just bringing them in, and the security guy pulled up and goes, "What are you doing?" And then they just kind of, with confidence, explain some story, and he goes, "Oh, okay," and then he drives away, and then they're there for another 2 years, like. So it was crazy, the amount they were literally moving in stuff past the security desk with people sitting there watching monitors and climbing up a straight up flight of stairs with 300-pound pieces of furniture, 2 people underneath it, 2 people like hiking it up like 2 stories to get it up into this apartment. And it's a wild documentary.
That's insane.
Really entertained. Yeah. So, and it all happened. It's all, something that is part of the history of Providence, and it's incredible. So it was really fascinating. It was a fun watch. If you get a chance, it's a quick watch too. It doesn't take very long, and but it was fun. It was fun to watch, to see how they got away with it. Ultimately, what's funny is how they got caught, because it wasn't just that the room was found, but they weren't found initially, just the room. It was their logins with their real names on the PlayStation that they had in that room. So they had all of their names from their logins from the PlayStation.
I mean, I'm at the age now where, like, if they caught Banksy and outed him and he had to go to jail or whatever, I'd be like, "Oh, it's Banksy. I love Banksy." And then in the same breath, I'd be like, "Homie knew what he was doing." Like, he's defacing property all over the world. Like, yeah, he knew what he was doing when he started doing it. So, how many megs you got on this guy?
I would say probably 7.5 megs.
Okay.
Tail end. Just because, ultimately there was no one really to root for.
Yeah.
It was just kind of interesting to watch people get away with something in real life. But most of the, because they're interviewing each character in in modern times, and they all grew up to be exactly who you think they would grow up to be, just kind of unlikable, artsy lambs.
There may not have been any winners, but there certainly was a loser. You know who lost that documentary? The construction company that fucked up and left a gap where somebody could squat and film a documentary in for 4 years. I'm sure planners are like, those guys aren't building our building, are they?
I'm sure that was the same company that went across in the early 2000s and built mall after mall after mall.
Oh yeah.
So, but
that's great. Secret mall apartment, 7.5 tail end. I love it.
Yep. So that leaves us with our final for the evening, which we always love to dish out advice.
Yeah.
And we dish out a very specific type of advice. It's not regular wisdom. This is the wisdom for people who might be looking to be an overlord.
That's true.
If you're looking to control a region or control a populace of any kind, don't do it wrong. Do it the right way. We see example after example through every form of media of how it's done poorly, and they always end up failing when they had all of the cards and somehow managed to fumble that deck and shuffle all the cards and then end up losing. And it's because they don't use proper logic of what it takes to be a good
and we're
overlord.
Here for you. If that's your chosen vocation, we're here for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So number 15 this week I will never employ any device. It's just, we need to make it clear. Any device with a digital countdown.
Okay.
Don't do it. Don't, if you've got a bomb or something, make it a remote switch, make it something that you can set off instantaneously. Don't put a timer on it. Don't put a digital timer on it.
Yeah. We want lagging indicators, not leading indicators for our world ender device, whatever it may be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get to business. Like, you don't need, if you need some time to remove yourself from whatever that situation is for your health and safety or the safety of your
Yeah.
Then create a different system, but don't put a timer on it, because timers always getting you in trouble. If I find that such a device is absolutely unavoidable, though, and you have to have a timer on it, I will set it to activate when the counter reaches 117. And then the hero is just putting his plan, as the hero is just putting his plan into operation.
Yeah.
So, like, he's just getting started on, okay, what, how do I disarm this? How do I get, to point A, from point A to point B in this time frame? It doesn't matter, because I've thrown you off, because the actual detonation time or whatever is at 117, not at 0, or not at,
Yeah, dude.
So,
if the evil villains in probably quite literally every single one of the Mission Impossible movies were to just employ a countdown timer that's set at 117, it would have been a really short franchise to run.
right. Yeah.
We would not have Ethan Hunt getting out of stuff over and over again at the last moment, or any of his friends. Just take care of business.
Because that timer always gets down to 2, 1, and then they save the day.
Yep. Yeah, and if you're
don't give them that option.
If you're striking first, do it right. If you have to strike second, screw that. Still strike first. 117, and then it just goes. I love it.
Yeah. So, like, you gotta bob and weave. You gotta juke them a little bit. You gotta make sure that you're unpredictable, because a timer, there's nothing more predictable than a timer.
Yeah.
And so, just set it for a different time. Set it for 94 seconds. Set it for, it doesn't even have to be 61. Yeah. Like, play with it. Have fun with it. But don't give them the lead. Don't let them know. So that's my tip for this week on the Overlord tip.
Overlord tip 15. Check those timers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
If you got to use them wisely.
Dope. Well, what a banger of a night. We went way longer than usual, and I had fun the whole time, dude. So super appreciate it. I'll be visited by your family and mine tomorrow. I'll keep you posted how that goes. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have fun and exciting stories to tell for next week. So that's it for me.
Yeah, same here. I got some food to make upstairs, so
beautiful. All right, friends. Well, we will talk to you soon. Have an awesome evening. Good night.
Bye, everyone.